Well, good morning to everyone. This is Pam Serna of Tennessee Girls and Boys Talk Masters. Once again, happy snow day. This is Friday, the 21st of February. And if any of you have been watching the news, which I'm sure many of you have and many of you have not, you've heard of a man named Donald Trump. And unless you're oblivious, you know that he is smeared all over television screens all over the world. And I told my brother Joe recently that whether you like Donald Trump or whether you hate him, you have to know that there is a kinetic energy that follows the man. The world is talking about him, and things happen. Again, whether you like him or whether you hate him, Donald Trump is a force to be reckoned with. So I told Joe that sometimes I have to wonder if he's going to become almost like a mythological character, much like the characters in Greek mythology. But the truth is, I know that in my heart, I believe that God has guarded Donald Trump. Obviously, the bullet that grazed his head was so close to piercing his skull, and it did not happen. That that could only be a miracle. I'm sorry, that's not coincidence. Anyway, so I told Joe that there needs to be a new word for Donald Trump, some word to describe him. So we both came up with an idea for a word, and then I have a friend who came up with the word. So Joe, I'll let you go first. Good morning, and thank you for being here. And why don't you share the word that you came up with for Donald Trump?
Well, off the top of my head, the word that came to mind was trumpological, uh, as a variation of psychological,
Right.
or pathological, or epistemological. It's, uh, it's like it's logical to the person it's logical to, and to the person it's not logical to, I guess it's the opposite. But I guess it applies 360 degrees because it's just the root of logic.
I um I looked up the suffix definitions for the words that we all came up with. I looked up the suffix ological, and it is used to form adjectives that describe something as related to a particular science or subject. For example, biological is an adjective that uses the suffix ological. So trumpological is an adjective relating to the science or subject of Trump. So uh, there is the definition of trumpological. Okay, and so I came up with trumpology. And so I looked up the definition of ology. Ology refers to the study of something, and it comes from the Greek word logos, which means word or reason. It is used to create English words that refer to fields of study such as climatology, geology, and psychology. So Trumpology would be the study of Trump. Okay, and there's one more. My friend Michelle, she had her input, and she came up with Trump Trumpologetics. Okay, so she took it to another uh, phase out there. So according to Oxford Languages Dictionary, I could not find Ola, ologetics. So of course, we have the word apologetics, which is defined as reasoned arguments or writings in justification of something, typically a theory or religious doctrine. So I suppose that Trumpologetics would be the justification or doctrine of Trump. So there you have our definition, our new words describing Trump this morning. So, Joe, we've discussed a number of articles and news pieces this week, and you've shared some interesting videos. I'd like to get your thoughts to start today. I'm always the one that jumps in there first, giving my 2 cents worth. Share with me what is one of your most noted insights this week.
Well, threshing through multiple uh, digital media outputs regarding the subject of the current state of political activities involving Trump and crew, as well as the those that are adversarial and in opposition to what they are representing and attempting and working on doing, it just occurs to me that these political figureheads often are just that. They claim to represent masses of people, but they use the masses of people as sort of a tool to benefit themselves and their own positions of power and authority. And the hope would be that that must include at all uh, using those positions to actually affect a positive benefit to the masses of people that they are being figureheads of to represent, if any of that makes any sense to you.
Sure. Um, some people are accusing uh, Elon Musk of wanting to gain more wealth and power, and yet I always read that he has been living in a $50,000 house for years, even with all of his money. So it's not exactly like money is his biggest motivator. And sometimes I honestly think that his brain goes at such warp speed that I don't think he can really control sometimes the creativity and the insight that he has because he's such a genius.
It's a challenge. It's very challenging to go up against the quote unquote status quo, business as usual, the way things have been done bureaucratically and administratively on the federal and I guess some state levels for a long time. And for a figure like Mr. Musk to come along and to end up being in a position to effectually change that status quo is very challenging with all of the bulwark of misinformation and misdeeds and sort of a reverse mirror world where things have been represented as being the opposite of what they actually are, and then to come along and attempt to undo that and attempt to sort of set things right to some degree that actually benefits the masses of people that were had prior been used and utilized as sort of tools of the state as a rationale for misdeeds of those behind the scenes or undercover camouflage of double talk to do what they wanted and to get away with what they wanted to get away with.
Yeah, I think that I think people that are willing to learn and to really see through the veil, um, that they can see through the smoke screen that the Democrats are trying to throw up. For instance, I think it was a group of 5 Democrats that were standing in front of the FBI protesting about uh, Kash Patel uh, having gotten through the Senate and being named as the next director of the FBI. And uh, I think that Schiff was the main detractor in that group. And I think he's the one that apparently has the most to lose because he was behind all of this Russiagate trying to get Trump impeached before. And there's going to be more of the smokescreen to be revealed. The Bible says there's nothing hidden that will not come to light. And I think that's where we are. I think we're at that place in history where things are coming to light.
Yeah, I think the people who have been traditionally in positions of power for however long um, are being confounded by what is happening now. That anything they have tried to do to consolidate their power and to perpetuate their power and to hold on to their power has not been for the masses of people that they claim to represent. It's been for, I guess, what's characterized as ulterior motives. And now that things are coming to light and revealing what they've been up to and the misappropriation and the malfeasance and the fraud and the waste and the that really so many of these politicians just spending their own nest and patting their own pockets uh, under pretense of non-governmental organizations and grants. I mean, who knows how much money actually made it to any of these destinations and how much actually ended up rolling back to the people responsible for taking care of this business in the first place.
Yeah, it seems like there have been billions of dollars that just sort of evaporated or disappeared into a black hole somewhere at this point. And yeah, it's a good thing that Elon Musk and his associates that are helping him with Doge are such computer brains, because they're probably the only people in the country that could figure this mess out. Um, I
When
speaking
they messed with Elon Musk, they really messed with the wrong person. He was fairly a left oriented and was from California doing his business there, and he was all about electric everything and the green and all that. And but he was common sense minded, and he wanted us to do things in a way that worked. And the people in California, the politicians there, they couldn't allow that. They gave him a hard time, and they wanted to fine him and tax him for every little thing. And and then they started. They did something, I forget exactly what it was, but they really got on his bad side and really turned him towards the Trump side of things. And that was probably the biggest mistake they ever made in this, particular era of geopolitical warfare going on.
um, well, I think that Elon Musk and Donald Trump together, think about it. Donald Trump is president, but he's also a savvy businessman. Elon Musk is a genius. He's a very savvy businessman, and they're like the dynamic duo. And that is not to diminish or to devalue what JD Vance has brought to this team. JD Vance is obviously a genius as well, but he seems to be more politically minded. He's more the polished politician.
He's an incredibly articulate and talented person, and very brilliant. He's a
Absolutely.
he's a sort of low key. He's sort of the kind of person that you don't know that he's knocks your lights out until you wake up in the emergency room.
That's a good analogy, Joe. Uh, Speaking of things in the news and what's happening around the world and around the country, I watched Dan Bongino on Rumble sometime. He used to be with Secret Service, and he also used to be on Fox News as one of their commentators. Um, and I don't know at what point why he was let go from Fox News, but he's on Rumble, and he always has very good insight. He was talking about when Bill Clinton left office, in spite of all of the in spite of all the scandals that Bill Clinton faced, the whitewater that he and Hillary faced, his sexual scandal with Monica Lewinsky, he still left office with a 60% approval ratings, meaning that there were a lot of Democrats that were approved of him, and there were a certain amount of Republicans that still approved of him. And the reason being that he left office with the economy in good shape. And the reason he left the economy in good shape was because he worked with the Republicans to come up with a plan. But I watched the video that Dan Bongino shared of Clinton. Let's see what the video was on C-SPAN. He discussed federal job cuts from the White House when he gave this talk. Okay, let's see. He was announcing cutting federal bureaucracy by at least 100,000 jobs. So this is not the first administration to talk about doing an overhaul of federal bureaucracy. Bill Clinton did it. The Democrats loved him. What's the difference between what Clinton did? Donald Trump is actually taking some things from the Bill Clinton playbook. And Democrats are just raising the roof about it because it's Donald Trump.
Yeah, possibly in the time between then and now, the escalation and the sort of hyper accelerated uh, activity of fraud in high places has become so constant and so in your face that the only way of sort of obscuring the evidence was to keep power. And what they're really concerned about the most is that their dirty deeds are going to be revealed.
Exactly.
I mean, if someone could talk about cutting everything, but they weren't going to do anything about the fraud, the graft, and corruption, or reveal anything about it, but just talk, talk the talk the talk without walking the walk. That is the Democrat playbook. It is like rhetoric. It's like hyperbole. It's like run your mouth, run somebody down. But the results that speak for themselves are not there. You don't get results for the masses of the working people. You give things away to people in hope of consolidating some sort of political base to keep yourself in power, freebies, gimmies, and then you present yourself as being do-gooders and liberals and just so ethical and so moral when all the time you're doing insider trading, insider deals, and you're breaking every moral and ethical law known to humanity. And that's what they don't want revealed. That's what they have against quote unquote Trump, that he represents the potential for actually exposing all this. That's
Yeah.
what they don't like very much.
That's why they're all fretting about Kash Patel being director of the FBI now.
Yeah.
That's why they're upset about that. Well, listen to this. Bill Clinton said that at least 10% of the cuts must come from senior management. He said government was full of dedicated workers whose work was being choked off by our own bureaucracy. Hello. That is, I mean, this is history repeating itself.
It's a watershed moment in the system. Like the system either cleans itself up or it disintegrates and crumbles because there's no more money, there's no more resources to prop up this sort of a extravagant free for all in this sort of a comedy of horrors that they call the federal government. It either, and people like Musk and Vance and along with the Trumpster, they, they recognize this. They know it's a moment in history. They're cognizant of all this. Uh, That's why they calling for common sense and reason and responsibility. I mean, are they all sincere? Are they all, angelic in their intent? Remains to be seen, if there's any wild cards in the bunch or if it's all going to be legit and up front, as represented. We can only pray and hope so, but we know for certain that there's been an overwhelming majority of misdeeds and crookedness prior to this, and those are the ones kicking and screaming and yelling and saying everything they can to run down what's going on now because they don't want themselves or their cronies revealed in their dirty deeds. Never cheap, to paraphrase ACDC.
Speaking of dirt cheap, I have a vision in my head of the Democrats just laying down in a pile of wet mud and kicking and screaming like little kids throwing a fit. That's kind of what they remind me of. Yeah, Clinton
Yeah,
said,
it's like when Charlie Brown goes to kick the football and Lucy pulls it out of his way and he falls down.
listen, Clinton said in many agencies, overhead is too high and day to day operations have not been examined in a very long time. Again, this is history repeating itself. They're making the point. This has not been looked at in a very long time. And so Elon Musk, he has presented the idea of taking live cameras into Fort Knox to see if all the gold is actually still there.
Be interesting to see, believe it or not. Yeah.
Yep. Um, and so now I want to speak about something else here. Okay, let's see. So we know about all the Democrats fussing about Doge. Okay, so now there have been some interesting memes regarding Elon Musk and Doge. So I sent you this one from Babylon B. It says, cruel. Elon Musk cuts off Social Security benefits for thousands of Revolutionary War veterans. And it's got a picture of Elon Musk and a picture of a skeleton with a pirate's hat on beside it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I wonder how many dead people have actually been getting Social Security benefits, and you know that this is not made up. I'm sure this was
Yeah.
happening.
But yeah, I wonder where what actual bank accounts these funds are being funneled to.
Exactly. Yep.
I hope they
I'm
find that out and publicize that.
I'm hoping that gets revealed. Absolutely.
I think if
Um,
I think if anybody can get to the bottom of it, Elon Musk is certainly the person who has that capability.
uh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, so now also let's see. There was also the Doge father, right? A picture. It looked like a picture of uh, Marlon Brando in his Godfather seat and attire with Elon Musk's face there, and I thought it was very appropriate. I mean, this is the Doge father.
That seems to be a fairly accurately representative meme of what's going on with that. Yeah. But it's sort of also another perspective of it is that rather than having it be the godfather of a criminal organization, it's like I think it's more like Elliot Ness busting the rackets in Chicago.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
That's what I'm liking it to, and he goes in to bust up the rackets of Dillinger and all those boys.
I loved Elliot Ness. Um, okay,
Yeah,
so
they were called the Untouchables, right?
I think that was it.
That was
Um,
the series, yeah.
now,
Elliot Ness and the Untouchables.
you know, um, Donald Trump recently he presented an idea that until now has been never thought of, probably unheard of. He discussed the possibility of removing the residents, the people in Gaza, moving them out so that that whole region can be bulldozed because it's now uninhabitable,
Yeah,
moving them to neighboring countries and rebuilding this area. And uh, I saw a video where one of the Gazans said, I'm ready. Please get us out of here. I'm willing to go wherever because this place needs to be rebuilt. And so then there are liberals going, oh, this is a terrible idea. This is a terrible idea. It's a novel idea. It's something nobody else has thought of before. But there, I have visited Israel once, only ever, and it was in 2011. And there's so much history there, and there is so much art, so much love, so much of everything in this little land that I do try to keep up with reading about what's going on there. I do read from some influencers who live in Israel. I'm sure that many people listening have seen the news about October 7th in 2023 when some of the Gazans and Hamas came over into Israel and attacked some of the kibbutzim in Israel and threw babies in ovens, um, took hostages into Gaza, and that when Trump came into office, the process of negotiating the release of the hostages resumed. And yesterday, there were 4 bodies of deceased hostages returned. 3 of them were supposed to be children of the Bibas family, Bibas family. Uh, it was 9-month-old Kafir and his 4-year-old brother Ariel. They were identified as 2 of the bodies returned. The third body was supposed to be their mother. It was not their mother. It was not identified as any hostage that has been taken. So Hamas returned these bodies to the family, saying this is the mother and the 2 children. It was not the mother. It was the 2 little innocent boys that were murdered by Hamas. And there was an elderly gentleman who had been kidnapped. His body was returned, and I'm sorry, I don't have his name. He was not part of that family. But I just want to say there is a saying in Judaism when one of their when one of their people die, when one of their family dies, they say, may their memory be for a blessing. So for these young children and this gentleman who passed, I would like to say, I would like to acknowledge this atrocity and their passing and say, may their memory be for a blessing, Joe.
I say into that thing.
It, it is a tragedy, and I believe that Donald Trump, I believe he will work with Bibi Netanyahu to bring the events that have been unfolding to a culmination and bring it to an end for this present time. And we know through biblical history that these, I call them family fights because these are all descendants of Abraham, and we know about the history, but we don't know how long it will go on. But for now, it would be great if peace happens in our lifetime. And I think if anybody can um, bring a halt to this, it will be Donald Trump. And therefore, I say yay for Trumpology
Yeah.
and Trumpological.
It seems only a chance is what we have going on right now. Uh, before the plans of the previous administration and those involved were foiled by the election of Trump and company, there was no chance. And why was there no chance? Probably, this is just one person's opinion, there were so many people of that group that were actually supporting uh, activities that were not in the best interest of the majority of the American people, maybe in the interest of other areas, other countries, other people in power. In other words, it was people in power dealing with people in power, working for to gain money and sell weapons and to keep control of the social orders and the cultures in the culture war. And so to have someone relatively upright and relatively well intended for the majority of the people to become elected and to get power thwarts that for now and gives opportunity for a different direction to actually represent people and to actually do something for people rather than to pretend to do something and maybe even do something against the people. But that's conspiracy theory talk. That's misinformation. That's malinformation. They're saying all the wrong things according to the previous people in power. But they're not in power now, so you can say what you want now.
Amen. Well, Joe, you know what? It's time for us to go today, and I've got a I've got a room full of little boys next door in the next room, and I have somebody that's going to be knocking at the door any moment, and I can't tell you what uh, a thrill it is for me to be having my brother as a co-host from on some of our podcasts and to hear his input because Joe, you remind me a bit of JD Vance in that you're able to articulate things where they're crystal clear. And so we'll have discussions here soon about what we will talk about on our next podcast when you and I are together. And do you have any parting words, Joe, before I turn on our outro music?
Everyone say your prayers and keep an open mind and study and be objective. And may God be with you.
Amen.